And going over to the business blunder of the day, Stellantis forced to pay $4 million for emission defeat devices, which, from a libertarian perspective, I kind of think, suck at EPA and leave businesses alone. But I understand you have regulations that like to kneecap American jobs or get rid of them, rather. That's what the government seems to like to do best. But hopefully that changes soon. Now, this comes thanks to Nico, who's a writer at The Drive. Now they say, quote, Stellantis must pay $4.2 million for diesel emissions defeat devices on ProMaster work vans. The settlement will be split in half, with one half being a civil penalty and the other half funding a project to help clean up cargo ship emissions. Which, yeah. Again, Stellantis is by no means on its own in this metric or this instance. I mean, Cummins, famously a diesel company, had a similar instance earlier in 2024. I want to say it's Q2. But again, every year the EPA kneecaps these companies more and more with fleet, not just, emissions standards being ratcheted up way too high, realistic, but also with fuel fleet EPA or mile per gallon rather mandates. Yeah, it's one of those things that these engineers being stretched to the limits. That's the reason why EV is being pushed by people as a de facto ban on internal combustion engines. Again, one of the most famous issues with Volkswagen, they had a similar issue with diesel engines where they said they were cleaner than they were. These companies are just being beat left and right. They can barely make it, so they're taking shortcuts because they think they need to do this to stay alive, which, in certain instances, it's hard to argue with that when, again, you see them barely scraping by and the government just makes they're basically making de facto these engines illegal. Now, again, diving into the actual article, they say, quote, here you can see one of those, it's definitely not attractive, but you can see, one of those transit vans, which, F- for marketing, but at least, some people do appreciate it. Definitely doesn't look appealing to me, but I partially digress. They say, quote, in case you haven't been paying attention, Volkswagen is no longer the only auto manufacturer associated with diesel emission defeat devices. Far from it. Actually, the Environmental Protection Agency and California Air Resources Board have been reaching settlements up to $1 billion, which, yeah, funny those states are still perpetually in debt. Where's all that money go again? Yeah, I think Gavin Newsom's pocket, perhaps, allegedly. But, really, where does all this money actually go? Now, they say, quote, yes, really, there's another one on the list. It's Stellantis, this time required to pay $4.2 million for violating the CARB emissions regulations and its diesel-powered ProMaster work vans. According to Reuters, Stellantis agreed to the settlement after a, quote, unproved device was found on 2014 to 2016 ProMaster 1500, 2500, and 2500 vans with 3-liter diesel engines. The device was allegedly installed to turn off emissions control during the normal driving in the wild, turning them back on during emissions testing. This resulted in an estimated 55 tons of extra nitrogen oxides pumped in there. Oh, dear God, what will we do? Oh, no. Yeah, realistically, it will prevent devices to actually purge the air like they have in China with the scrubbers. And yeah, there'll be better technology in terms of remediation. I suspect it'll be more efficient than kneecapping these devices in terms of national vehicles, but another topic for another time, perhaps. Stellantis didn't respond to Drive's request for comment at the time of publishing. Well, we'll update the story if we do get one. The CARB robust compliance testing ensures that automakers sell exact vehicles that receive certifications for the sale in California without alterations made to skirt the state's regulations and receive excess emissions that harm quality air and public health, said CARB Executive Officer Dr. Stephen Cliff. The money will go in two places. $2 million will be designated to California's Air Pollution Control Fund as a civil penalty. Couple of things. So that's going to go to the $250,000 salaries of the people that work there. In fact, the homelessness issue, where California spent $25 billion trying to fix that, and their homeless rate went up, and they actually have nothing to show for it. Let's just say I don't think this money will go anywhere productive. They also know that the leftover $2.1 million helps fund a project that provides incentives for cargo ships to slow down in areas during peak whale and ozone seasons, benefiting both air and wildlife. So Stellantis making cars, granted, if they're foreign cars or manufactured outside the United States, they're coming here on a cargo ship. But yeah, it's going to pay to slow down those boats. Right. They say this isn't the first time Stellantis has been in trouble for emissions cheating. Held easy in the first time this decade. In 2022, Stellantis pleaded guilty to criminal conspiracy to cheat diesel emissions regulations on Grand Cherokees and Ram trucks, paying a hefty $300 million fine. But I thought that fine was going to fix everything. That's what the government says. We need these fines. They're very important, we're told. By comparison, the recent settlement with CARB is just a drop in the bucket. Now, going to the top comments. SA 2822 says, companies keep doing this because they know the penalties are meaningless. This is a $4.2 million is especially pathetic. We need to hold the top executives at the top of these companies during the time personally and criminally liable. Which, yeah, personally, I don't know about that. Again, you have seen some penalties that do trickle up directly to executives. Part of it is actually showing on paper. Did they actually know? Did they actually instruct? That did get 6 likes, though. William Scott says the leftover $2.1 million helps fund a project that provides incentives for cargo ships to slow down in areas during peak whale and ozone seasons. Gumming up, guys. Gumming it up. Shit. Gummint? That's a new pejorative term I don't know about. I'll check the Urban Dictionary. Harberger says 42 million. Scary. Spooky. Hyenas. Retired Swami says the EPA is an agency that needs to be eliminated. Every one of their communist edicts is based on studies submitted to them from the communist wacko environmental Nazi fascists hell-bent on establishing the global enviro-Nazi world order. The EPA's biggest excuse for this, the EPA's biggest excuse for just all about this communist edicts is non-existent man-made climate change. Climate change is all on its own. I live in an area in the U.S. that has been under a mile of ice for 15 years ago. The Sahara Desert, this guy wrote a paragraph. The Sahara Desert was lush 6K years ago. Driving Super Duty with a diesel or Suburban did not change the climate. That melted the ice or turned Sahara into desert. He did get one like, though, for that. I mean, he is much more bombastic than I would ever be. And, yeah, I mean, I think there's some totalitarianness in terms of the government saying what you can and cannot drive, as well as controlling your vehicle remotely, which, again, with EVs are especially easy to do. Yeah, and I'm definitely not a fan of the world governments forcing crap down on Americans because we don't get to vote for them. But nevertheless, he definitely went out on a limb there. Someone by the name of Chewbacca says simplistic thinking. We're responding to him. Even if climate change isn't real, diesel causes smog, and this prevents smog. Getting one like. Mark says when everyone is doing it, these companies aren't the problem. The requirements are. You cannot legislate non-existent technology into being. Getting one like. Is there any more comments here? Let's see here. Do one more. Alaska Man, which A+ for marketing. I only thought there was a Florida Man, but they see we're seeing more and more of these. What is it? One of the comments on the drivers from Mr. Alaska Man, which is very intriguing. It says, quote, "This is a shakedown and extortion of our manufacturers. Does anyone track the funds or payouts? No, it'll end up in the pockets of the Democrat elite who fly over the world and board large yachts to fight climate change." Ironic, but true. And yeah, also, other countries don't do this to their manufacturers to the extent. Again, the number one polluters on the planet is China, or Trump would say China, as well as India. And yeah, let's just say it seems to be the Americans really get kneecapped in terms of our economy and our jobs with, the EPA kneecapping. But nevertheless, again, if you're in the most regulated industry, again, one of the most regulated industries being the automobile industry, they're going to be checking you and you're eventually going to get caught for this. And you're going to have to pay these fines, which, again, these are fines that could go to making the vehicles more reliable. Well, more real. I don't think they would actually do that. Stellantis, they'd probably just pocket it. But nevertheless, in theory, that would be passed on to the consumer, making the vehicles more reliable or increasing customer service. And these are funds that can no longer be put to good use, so to say. So if I don't agree with these mandates and everything, again, so I gotta say, Stellantis, this defeat device and this payout, I gotta say, you're certainly the business blunder of the day. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in today. Again, try to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of the month. So if you can click that button, I greatly appreciate it. Also, give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, or comment. It's a great way to give me some additional feedback, letting me know how I can make the show better and better. Lastly, don't forget to take time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe, fight the good fight.